UFC 319 is finally here. It's Dricus du Plessis, the reigning and undisputed UFC middleweight champion, taking on Khamzat Chimaev, who holds an undefeated record. This fight is just unbelievable. Two dominant fighters going toe-to-toe, and one that has the potential to be a historic matchup. This is the UFC's first event in Chicago, Illinois since UFC 238 in June of 2019. So a little over 6 years since they've been to Chi-Town, and this is their 8th visit to Chicago. And let's jump right in it and start with the main event. Dricus du Plessis is defending his middleweight championship for the third time. He's coming off of a unanimous decision victory and his second against Sean Strickland back at UFC 312 in February. Before that, as we know, he submitted Izzy, and before that, he won the title against Strickland via split decision at UFC 297. So he's aiming for his fourth title win, and this guy has been on quite the run. He's only lost twice in his career. He hasn't lost since 2018, and he's won 11 straight fights, looking for his 12th in a row. He's finished 20 of his 23 victories, and this guy at 31 years old, if he could get past Khamzat Chimaev, he really is on his way to a historic run here at 185 pounds. But Khamzat Chimaev, since he entered the UFC around the pandemic era in 2020, this guy has been all gas, no brakes. He's been pure just fireworks every time he's in the cage. As we know, he started at welterweight. He started in 2020. He won 3 fights in 2020, and then it seemed like the hype kind of diminished a little bit because he suffered injuries and setbacks. But he really, although he hasn't been the most active guy by any means, he's only fought twice in nearly the last 2 years. But his wins are quality wins. He is battle-tested. He beat Gilbert Burns. He beat Kevin Holland. He beat Kamaru Usman, the former champion. And he's coming off of a win against former middleweight champion Robert Whittaker, where he submitted him in the first round and only took a couple minutes. This guy is just primed for a title fight, and it seemed like ever since he entered the UFC in 2020, it seemed like he was destined to be a UFC champion, and he has an opportunity to fill that destiny come Saturday night. But he has a tough opponent in front of him, and somebody who is so unorthodox in Dricus du Plessis, and that's to me what makes this matchup so intriguing, because you have two guys that don't do things traditionally. They don't just stand up there and strike. They like to mix in takedowns and level changes. They, both guys to me haven't been known as the best cardio fighters, but I think that'll be different this time around, especially for Chimaev, who is ready, as it seems, for his first 5-round fight in the UFC. But I just think when you break this fight down, I think Chimaev is the more skilled fighter all around. I think he's a better all-around fighter. He's taller by 1 inch. Dricus has a 1-inch reach advantage. But when you break it down even more through the stats, Chimaev is just the better striker. He lands strikes at a 10% higher clip while being the better fighter on the ground. He has 100% takedown accuracy. He has 100% takedown defensive rate. He has never been taken down in his career, and that is all while averaging over 4 takedowns per 15 minutes, which is about almost 2 more than Dricus. Dricus lands about 0.5 more significant strikes per minute, but I do think that Chimaev, the best thing that he does to me is just mixing everything in. His game is so well-rounded. He proves that and shows that every single time he's out there. And just his lethal finishing ability, to me, is the difference also, because this guy, although I mentioned Dricus is a good finisher himself, Chimaev doesn't waste any time in there, as he showed against Whittaker. He's finished 12 of his 14 wins have come by finish, and I know, you could say 2 of his last 4 have been by decision, but I just think the last time we saw him, we saw a more intense version at 185 pounds, and I don't see that changing. Dracus is a big guy. It might be a more naturally bigger guy than Chimaev, but I just trust, like I said, Chimaev's skills. I think Chimaev is going to win this fight by knockout or submission. I do think he's going to win, but I do think if the longer the fight goes, I question Chimaev because we haven't seen him in rounds 4 and 5 ever in his career, and we have seen Dracus there. Like I said from the top, I think this has the potential to be an incredible fight, one of the best title fights in a long time that we've seen. But going down the rest of this card, we have Lerone the Miracle Murphy, who's ranked number 6 in the featherweight division. He's 16-0-1, and this guy has just been on quite the stretch in the UFC. He's coming off big wins over Edson Barbosa, Dan Ige, and Josh Emmett, and although he's climbing the ranks slowly, he's doing it in a way where he is getting better every single time. He's building up. He's not taking massive steps, in competition, and although he's fighting a newcomer in Aaron Pico, Aaron Pico is still a legit contender. He's only 28 years old still, the former Bellator fighter, and this guy is just another lethal finisher. 11 of his 13 wins have come by finish. He has 9 knockouts in his career, and this guy, similarly to Chimaev, is all action when he gets in there. And although he does have 9 of his wins have come by knockout, he is still an incredible fighter on the ground. He is well versed, and I really think that although the stereotype has been that these ex-Bellator guys come in like we've seen recently with Patricio Pitbull, I just think that Aaron Pico is different, and although he does have 4 losses and it wasn't a former Bellator champion, I just think that he never was given that opportunity, and I think he always was very close, and I think that he is still in the prime of his career, unlike a guy like Patricio Pitbull, who is nearing 40 years old. I got Aaron Pico to win that fight. Moving down the card, Carlos Prozes taking on Jeff Neal. This fight is between 2 fantastic strikers. You have Carlos Prozes, who, before his last loss against Ian Machado Gary, which he took on short notice, before that, this guy won 10 fights by knockout, all in the first or second round. He is that good. And although he's coming off a loss, I don't think that should affect how you feel about him. He is still dangerous, and he's fighting a guy in Jeff Neal who's going to want to strike with him, and I think that's going to be a mistake for Jeff Neal. I got Prozes by knockout here to get back on track. MVP taking on Jared Cananeer. MVP's coming off of a great performance against Shara Bullet, while Cananeer is coming off of a knockout in his own right against Gregory Rodriguez. So I really like this matchup, and this is a matchup where if MVP could get the job done, I think MVP is nearing contention in the middleweight division. I think MVP, with his length, he's 4 inches taller. He has an 1.5 inch reach advantage. I think he's going to keep him at range, and I think it's just going to be a masterclass on the feet, like we've seen in the past from MVP. Tim Elliott versus Kaya Sakura starting off the main card. Kaya Sakura, he did lose his first UFC fight to Alex Pantoja, but this guy's a former Rising champion. I think he's going to get back on track here. All of his losses in the last 6 years were in title fights, including a loss against Manal Cape, former or another UFC contender. I still like him, especially facing Tim Elliott, who's nearing the end of his career. I think Kaya Sakura is going to put on a show to open up the card. But overall, this card, UFC 319, although it doesn't have multiple title fights and it might be an under-the-radar card, I think UFC 319 could be an unbelievable pay-per-view event. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. I'm Ryan Wohl, and I'll see you next time.